I always tell people, it's like, I've been a broker for 25 years, and there's not a day that I don't learn something new or experience something new. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about real estate, is you always keep learning, or you always keep evolving. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is James Bergstrom with Paramount Real Estate Group, and we're doing another deep dive on a deal where we break down real deals, real numbers, and real stories from the real estate field. So anyways, glad to be here today again because we've got a fun one for you. This is a land deal that stretched our brains, sharpened our pencils, and reminds us why land is its own species in real estate. And joining me again today is my good friend and brother from another mother, designated broker David Bastian, who was right there literally in the trenches with me on this one. It's a beautiful thing to be able to put two heads together on a deal like this. Anyways, so we got a buyer who wants to purchase this 20-acre parcel. It's beautiful raw land with a long-term vision of subdividing it into 4 separate 5-acre parcels. The challenge here is many-fold, but basically, with it being a non-traditional financing, and there's an advantage also for the seller to carry the terms regarding taxation and that. So we got creative and we did a bulk payment situation on a yearly basis for the term of this note. And Dave, I wanted you to get into a little bit of how that kind of came together, because I think it's really interesting.
Sometimes it's to a seller's advantage. Sometimes sellers just want cash because they know what they want to do with it, and sometimes it's to their advantage to do seller financing because it allows them to manage their tax rate. And sometimes if you get a big down payment or a big cash infuse from the sale of a property, it could bump you into a different tax category. And so at times it's really to the benefit of a seller to accept seller financing so they can control how much money is coming in per year and then balance that out with their other investments and manage their tax category. So in this case, I think the seller was open to that. And the buyer, even though they had cash to pay, would rather keep their cash and stay more liquid and pay it out over time. So it was an advantage to both of them in this case. One of the things, though, that they had initially negotiated themselves was based on the initial down payment, they were going to go with a 0 interest rate. And essentially it was the seller asking the buyer, would you agree to let me do owner financing? And the buyer was initially agreeing to that, but in this case, because of the benefit to the owner, they negotiated a 0 interest rate on that. And then they were just going to make principal-only payments periodically. And one of the issues with that kind of a situation is, you might think initially, well, that's between the parties and how they want to negotiate it. But the IRS has a different idea. Yes. And the IRS, their position is, hey, if you're taking no interest, you're essentially giving a gift. And so we're going to impute a certain amount that we're going to say, we're going to tax you as if you were receiving this rate of interest. And so in this case, the seller would have to pay taxes as if the seller were receiving interest. And there is a minimum amount that the IRS will allow, and it's calculated out there. You can Google it and find out what it is. And in this case, the parties needed to do about a 4.7% interest rate in order for the seller not to be taxed on money they didn't receive.
That interest rate's kind of variable too, depending on different times, different, obviously, years, so to speak. I was doing a little study on that myself, and because it's unique, you don't always think about that detail when you're doing a deal like this, and so that was really great information to find out, obviously, as this offer was being put together. Are you aware if it's a variable?
The interest rate does go up and down based on the economy, but it's locked in at the time that you enter into the loan. And so it's not going to be variable during the period of the loan, but you do have to check before you enter into the loan what is the current rate.
Yeah. So as you can tell, this isn't just a write it up and close kind of deal. This was a deal that needed a lot of structure, intentional, thoughtful, creative structure, and that's where things start to get fun. One of the unique qualities of this deal is with the ultimate goal of the buyer to subdivide the lots. They want to be able to give a 5-acre lot to each of the family members to build their own home on. And so the idea for them was to, as they pay the property down, they want to be able to subdivide this and then sell one at a time to each of the family members. So with that, obviously, it's not as straightforward as when you start, for instance, banks don't want to allow you to change a property. They will require you to refinance. So with this case, it being owner terms, it gives us a little bit more flexibility, but still we wanted to keep the process recorded and in writing correctly. So in order for them to break off a piece and then sell it one piece at a time, we had to create a partial reconveyance schedule or a takedown schedule. Tell us, dude, you did a wonderful job on crafting that piece for this deal. Share with our audience a little bit about that process and what that means.
Well, so when you take a loan out, that's usually secured by a deed of trust. And in this case, the deed of trust is going to cover the entire 20 acres of the property. But when you've got a security interest on the property, like a deed of trust, then it's really difficult to go ahead and develop it one parcel at a time. So when he creates these separate parcels, then you want to go seek other financing, usually to be able to further develop the property, like put a house on it or something. No bank is going to go in second position. Occasionally you can talk a bank into subordinating to another loan in front of it, but in this situation I don't think that's really practical. And so with the vision of the buyer to buy this entire 20 acres, subdivide it into smaller parcels, and then be able to, one at a time, be able to develop them, we came up with the idea of a takedown schedule, which is not unique. It's done a fair amount in any time a builder is buying a bigger parcel, and then they essentially what's happening is they pay a certain amount into the lender, and then the lender agrees to remove their security interest for that parcel, and then they keep their security interest on the remaining parcels. And so in this case, we created a takedown schedule whereby when the buyer delivered $100,000 to the lender, then we would recalculate how much is owing on the entire debt at that point, divide it by the number of remaining parcels, and then that would give us a parcel value. And so when the borrower, or our buyer in this case, paid that amount to the owner or the lender, then they would agree to release that particular parcel, release the security on it, and that would then free up the buyer to then be able to go out and get other financing for that property.
Earlier in my career, it was my very, very first investment property I purchased. It was an old house, but it had a water view right in downtown Port Orchard, and it had a second lot that all I had to do was segregate it because it was already basically two city lots. Ultimately, I wanted to build a house and sell that house on that second lot, but trying to negotiate a partial reconveyance with the bank was very difficult to do. But I remembered that process because this isn't something that real estate brokers run into every day. And it's not a document that we have on the MLS or X forms that we can just fill in the blanks on it. This is a document that is usually drafted by a lawyer. And so it was unique to have this in a residential land sale. like?
Right. It's a unique situation. I'm sure that there are some big builders out there that have form takedown schedules in their drawer and they can pull them out. But in a typical transaction with essentially neighbors or somebody who's just going to come in and develop a property, each one has its own very unique circumstances, and so we have to sit down and put our heads together and come up with new and fresh ideas that will fit their circumstances and put it into the form of a contract that will be legally binding and result in a win-win situation for both of those parties.
100%. So now let's talk about the easement, because without it, the whole deal really collapses, because we had a condition in there that the deal is purchase and sale agreement is subject to the successful recording of an easement prior to at closing, or we'll get more into that in a second. But so basically, in order for there to be access, this easement needed to be recorded.
Well, so we initially started off with 40 acres. That's the owner of the property owns 40, and he was selling the south 20 to the buyer, which then left access issues for both the seller and the buyer. The buyer to be able to access that south 20, and the way the road meandered back and forth across those lines created an issue for the seller to be able to access the lower part of his property as well. So we needed to come up with an easement, and there's kind of a unique issue when somebody owns property like that and they own it all. An owner of a property cannot grant an easement to themselves. It's in the case law, it's called the doctrine of merger, and what it essentially means is when you owe fee simple title, all junior ownership gets consumed and brought back into the fee simple. So it's like, why does an owner have to grant an easement to themselves? They don't. And so that creates a problem when you want to create an easement for a sale, because you don't want to be dealing with the doctrine of merger. And so the way I try to structure those transactions is we put a provision in the contract that requires an easement to be executed upon closing of the purchase and sale agreement, and then we have the buyer granting the easement back to the seller. And in this case, the seller granting an easement to the buyer is mutual, because they're both having to go on each other's land to get to where they needed to be. And so we took a look at the legal descriptions and the boundaries, and in this case, because we were able to draw the description of the easement based on boundary lines to the property, it made it kind of simple. We didn't need to get a surveyor involved, but that's often required, and we were able to draft this document, have it executed at closing, and allowed both the parties access to the different parts of the property.
It's awesome. Well, at the end of the day, this deal worked because the seller got the price they wanted. They secured collateral throughout the entire term. They received structured payments they're comfortable with, both sides, because it was the buyer that wanted to make the bulk payments. He likes to keep it simple. And meanwhile, the buyer gets room to subdivide, predictable release pricing, the ability to capture value from individual lots and sell those to their family members, and a guaranteed access via easement. Well, this is how you take a complicated land deal and make it a win-win.
Yeah, I'm really happy that, within our practice at our firm, we're very focused on having positive outcomes for everybody. And this was an opportunity to bring the expertise that we have here at Paramount to the table and just put it all together and have a couple of happy clients at the end that got what they wanted and what they needed, and they're protected. So it's a pleasure to be able to take education and learning and use it to the benefit of other people.
Well, I always tell people, it's like, I've been a broker for 25 years, and there's not a day that I don't learn something new or experience something new. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about real estate, is you always keep learning, or you always keep evolving.
Okay, so James, This was a complicated transaction. A lot went into this. We had the takedown schedule, we had the unique financing, we had an easement that was prepared. So, I would expect that this transaction would have been pretty rewarding for you.
And that it was, Sir Dave. It was for the loved ones. So $7.70 and 2 bowls of amazing, the best chili ever. For everybody listening, if you take anything away from this today, let it be this. Land is complex. Creative financing is complex. But when you put the right structure in place, these deals can unlock enormous opportunity. If you're listening and thinking about buying land, or you've got a property you're not sure how to structure, reach out. We live for this stuff. Well, again, I'm James Bergstrom with Paramount Real Estate Group, along with David Bastian, our designated broker with Paramount Real Estate Group. So awesome to have you guys on with us today, and thank you so much for spending time listening to us. If you like more of this, please like and subscribe, as we hope to do this on a regular basis. Peace, love, and light. Ciao.